So we're looking at the second team here during our podcast, and this is your bread and butter right here, man. We're going to get into the Houston Rockets. Man, they've been rolling the past several games now. They just took out the Heat last night, which hurt me a little bit. You see the jersey behind me.
Yeah,
It's kind of hard to stomach, but man, Van Vliet 37 points. Min Thompson's back, 7 steals. He had a great performance, 18 points, 9 boards,
yeah,
5 assists. You look at this team right here, man, and from last season, especially 2 seasons ago, from where they were to where they are now,
right.
incredible rise, 46 wins. They're currently second in the West, although that's kind of gone back and forth the past few weeks.
Yeah,
And man, this team, the job that Ime Udoka has done with this team, especially on the defensive end, just continues to impress me. Obviously having Amin Thompson there, having Tari Eason there, Van Vliet. I mean, all those guys just love to get after it on defense. And when you got guys like that, they can lead the charge,
right.
really propping up everybody, kind of showing that, hey, here's how you really get after it. You give a lot of effort. You don't take plays off, and you just give the other team just the hell of a time getting up and down the court. It's really fun to watch. So I mean, that's kind of where I want to start with them is just, man, the defensive performance and Amin Thompson, how he kind of spearheads that effort, just flying around everywhere. And you've watched this team probably more than most, and I'm sure
Yeah,
you've noticed just, man, how much of a talent Amin Thompson is. And it's crazy because as a guy that's about 6'5", and he kind of slides between the 2 and the 3, you would expect a guy like that to be a reasonable shooter. I mean, he knows what he does best, and that's not shooting. He doesn't shoot a whole lot of threes at all. He just gets downhill, he gets in transition, he makes plays for others, he plays defense. I mean, what more can you say? He's a great teammate, a great guy to have on the court. So, man, talk about a little bit about their defense and Amin Thompson, man. He's been super impressive so far.
So Ime is never going to win Coach of the Year because when you look at it from a statistical standpoint, between this year and last year, they won 41 games last season, and they're probably going to win anywhere between 50 to maybe 53, 54. I don't think it's enough to win Coach of the Year, but I think you'd be hard pressed to find a coach in the league that's had a bigger impact on this team than Ime has done with Houston, specifically because of how he's respected, the importance of defense. And I think when you look at just their roster, right, and the names you go down the list, Men Thompson, Dylan Brooks, Jabari Smith, Tari Eason, Fred Van Vliet. These are guys that understand that defense is going to be the bedrock of anything they do. And if they're going to be an irritant in your side on a nightly basis, so be it. You take a guy like Amin Thompson, right? He came in the league, and the biggest thing about him was that he couldn't shoot, right? They were told that it was going to be hard for him to develop a jumper. His mechanics were wonky. It was too stiff, too upright, yada, yada, yada. What he's done since becoming a Houston Rocket and playing under Ime, it's hard to find guys like that, 6'7", 6'6", whatever you want to call it, that can jump out the gym, that are able to switch 1 through 5, that are able to play with such downhill force that it's almost impossible or it's pretty tough to stop. Now, what Men is able to do defensively in terms of just have his hands all around the court. He had 7 steals last night, and it looked like he had 15 just because of his activity is tremendous. The motor is nonstop, and that energy is infectious. You look at Dylan Brooks, even though from a number standpoint, his impact might not be as felt as much as it is. If you look at the raw on-off numbers and stuff like that, clearing the glass, we'll tell you a different story. But just their collective activity as a whole is what makes them good because they're greater than some of their parts.
Right.
And I think Tari Eason, who's a passing lane nightmare in terms of how much deflections he gets. Jabari, who's able to clean up behind him. They have a pretty aggressive, cohesive system going for them. And I think a lot of it wouldn't be possible if Ime didn't come in and instill that level of discipline and order. But most importantly, it wouldn't have been possible if Alperen Sengun didn't take the lead that he has defensively. Being that background defense, the rim protector, and just the anchor of what they're able to do. And you look at guys like Jalen, you look at guys like Jason Tate, Steven Adams now, who they're bringing in and playing those double big lineups. Like there's so many different things that they've been able to do defensively. And I think even though offensively they're inconsistent, because they're able to defend at a high level that consistently, I think that will give them a bigger chance than anything, once the playoffs start.
I'm glad you brought that up, Kelly. The offense of this team that could be a little inconsistent. Right. Obviously, the defense is it can be a championship level defense. The third in defensive rating this season. You just highlighted all the best parts about what they do on that end of the court. When it comes to the other side of the ball, however, they are average. They're about 15th in offensive rating. And I mean, they got guys that can explode. Jalen Green can go out there and get you 30 any given night. We know that. You talked about how Sengun just comes out there and can give you a ton of production on that end. But when it comes to, as a unit, getting enough points on the board, having that kind of explosion that you need sometimes when things get bogged down, you need an easy basket. That's where some of my questions come in about the postseason. We know about, Amin Thompson's shooting struggles. We know that Jabari Smith is not going to be the most dynamic offensive player, although he does a lot for the team defensively. There's just some certain questions about that. Jalen Green could be a little bit up and down. He can have some questionable shot selections sometimes. He hasn't been the featured guy in a playoff setting before, even though he's averaging 21 points a game. I just wonder how that's going to play out when he is the leading scorer for this team. And he's never been in a role like this to where it's like, hey, you're looking for somebody to carry you in games that that mean a lot, to where the defense is keyed in on you, really good defenses. So I'm curious to see how that kind of plays out in the postseason. How Van Vliet fares offensively, how Jalen Green fares, how Sengun fares. I mean, these guys haven't been in that scenario before, so this is going to be completely new to them. And they're going to be learning on the fly, getting like on the job experience. For sure. So, how do you feel about how their offense could play out once they get to the postseason?
I think they're gonna learn some pretty hard lessons next month, and it's not as a slight to them. It's just the reality of the way the game is played. When you have a team like the Rockets, who, for all intents and purposes, struggle in the half court consistently, this is due to not having. And to their credit, since the break, I think they're 10th in 3-point percentage, but they still don't take nearly as enough threes. I think they're 22nd in threes attempted per game. They don't shoot enough threes. They don't have a offensive system that tailors to one guy. Like there's no real pecking order. I think Ime has really preached that equal opportunity to offense, which is great for the regular season, but come the playoffs, that you might run into some problems because, like you said, these are guys who are going to be experiencing this for the first time. There's going to be a natural ego that kicks in, because they feel like they've arrived and they have, to their credit, because they deserve this in terms of where they came from. But you also run the risk of running into offensive issues, right? If you rely so much of your game on controlling the offensive glass and creating extra possessions and beating teams in transition, that's great. You're going to play a number of veteran teams that not only have studied you intensively and know how to effectively counter some of your go-tos, they're going to put you in predicaments where you're forced to learn in real time, right? Like these guys have never been in a playoff game before, a lot of them. And, to their credit, Fred Van Vliet's there and his experience is going to help tremendously. Dylan Brooks has been there. Steven Adams has been there. Jeff Green has been there. But teams are going to key in on them. And we've seen at times zone can hurt this team. We've seen at times talented perimeter isolation scorers can hurt this team in the half court. They're going to be put in positions where, as an offense, if you're not firing on all cylinders, if you're not hitting 12 to 14 threes a game, and if you're not taking care of the basketball, you can run into issues. And I think this is a young team, so they're going to be excited to get to the playoffs, and they should be, coming from what they used to be accustomed to. But you won't learn until you actually go through it. And I think they're going to have to go through some of these games, and you might have to lose a heartbreaking game 7 in the first round to understand, that you might need to tweak some things heading into next season in terms of X's and O's, player personnel, and the like.
Yeah, those are great points. That's essentially kind of like where my mind went when it comes to like a postseason scenario for them.
Right.
You look at the Thunder last season and like how much talent they have, and they still ran into a wall there in the second round, and they had to learn some
Yeah,
tough lessons. Even though they were first in the West last year, and they still had some struggles there. So for the Rockets, I think they've already kind of exceeded expectations in a lot of ways
for
and
sure.
did better than a lot of people expected, myself included. So just getting to the postseason, regardless of what seed they are, 2, 3, 4, I think it's a successful season if they can push whoever they play at least to a 6 or 7 game series. And even if they bow out, hey, I mean, this is a great learning experience. I do think at some point you're going to need to kind of figure out, okay, who is that alpha guy? Who's that number one that can carry you night to night, game to game in a postseason scenario and kind of solidify that? But like you said, for the time being, it's working for them. They're getting wins. So right now, no need to tinker with that and kind of mess with that dynamic. I think they're all playing well together and they're all on the same page. I think one player I'm curious about kind of moving forward. It reminds me of another guy on a team that's now exploding, having a great season. Jabari Smith Jr. is a
Right.
guy that's missed some time with an injury this season. It seems like he's kind of been up and down a little bit. It hasn't been the most consistent season for him. It reminds me of what we were starting to think about Evan Mobley kind of going back a season or two ago, to where it's like, oh, he was drafted in the top 5 and we expected him to be a star, and it seems like he's plateauing a little bit, and
Yeah.
we're not really seeing the juice. And all of a sudden this year he's an all-star and he's doing great things. So
Yeah.
I kind of want to ask you about what you've seen from Jabari. I mean, do you think that this is a year to where, hey, he just kind of settles into a role as a defensive guy and then the offense comes later? Like, what are your thoughts on him?
I think it's hard anytime you have a young player like Jabari that's never come off the bench his entire career of playing basketball, and then you first come to a team and then you're trying to be the glue guy, on a team that's equal opportunity. So, there are 4 other guys that are pretty aggressive in terms of their shot selection, and you kind of find your niche there as that 5th option. But you break your hand, you're out of the rotation for a number of weeks. Amin Thompson comes in and catches fire. Now you're coming back to a situation. Now you've been demoted to the bench, and I've always thought that in theory, bringing Jabari off the bench would help him because it should allow him to be his most aggressive self in terms of usage rating and just his positioning in the half court. You can put him in top of the key, you put him in the slot, you put him in the elbow, the dunker spot, wherever, because he has that unique, quirky kind of face up game. It's still developing, but when you watch him, you see, the potential. If this thing can be fleshed out a bit more. The problem with it is that when you're in a situation like this where so much is asked of you defensively and you don't really know where your shots are going to come from, especially when the playoffs come, there's going to be a hyper intense situation where everybody's going to be on eggshells because this is a young team getting there for the first time, and things might not go how they expect. So I think for Jabari, trying to find a balance has been the biggest key for him. And if you talk to him, he's a wonderful guy. He says all the right things. He's a team first guy. He's going to put them before himself. My only question is, at what point does he find the balance between coming off the bench and fully embracing that 6-man role where you kind of have a green light, because this is a team where there is no real pecking order. So if you're hot, Ime has been known to go with the hot hand for the
Yeah.
2 years he's been here. So I've seen Jabari win a game before at Tortoise, and I've seen him hit a buzzer beater to win the game, and I've seen him shoot 39% from 3 on 5 to 6 threes a game. I've seen him be that high level rebounder. It's just when you have a team like the Rockets do, where there's no real hierarchy, it's hard to find your niche. You kind of have to go with the
Sure.
flow. You have to
Yeah.
go with the flow, and you have to be adaptable, because Ime has been known to do different things at different times in terms of how he approaches games. So I think one of their biggest strengths and one of Jabari's biggest attributes is the ability to play small ball center. And I
Hmm.
think the good thing that Ime has going for him is that not only is he able to have games where you have the double big lineup of Steven Adams and Alperen Sengun, you also have where you can go small, put Jabari at center, put Amin Thompson at the 4 or the 3, and put Dylan in there. And you can able to play with the kind of pace that those young guys crave. So
Yep.
I think Jabari, and to some degree Cam Whitmore as well, I think they have the ability to be, you have some X factors on the team in terms of how you can set up your offense. The issue that's been holding them back all year is their execution. And that
Right.
goes back to, play calling and, kind of trying to update the software on the playbook. I think that's kind of been outdated to some degree. And that's adversely affected some of those guys in terms of rotation, rhythm, and just overall offensive efficiency.